Bonjour. Good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Grenoble ATtractiveness. I'm a lecturer in Anglophone Studies and it's my distinct pleasure to chair today's seminar. We're very fortunate to be joined by Professor Zaman, a Gates Senior Fellow for 2026. Professor Zaman is a tenured Professor of Sociology at Quaid-e Azam University in Islamabad, where he founded the School of Sociology. And I reckon this is a true testament to his leadership in the field. His academic pedigree is truly international, with a PhD from the University of Leipzig and fellowships in Warsaw and Zurich. He's also been recognized by PLOS Biology as being among the top 2% of scientists in the world. Today, he'll be sharing his insights from his current project here at Massy on marriage, mobility, and mediation. Professor, we're really looking forward to you learning from your expertise today, and please join me in welcoming Professor Zaman Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Gregory Albison. I'm really privileged to be here at Massy, and thank you, Massy, for giving this opportunity and to interact with one of the accomplished academicians here, not only in Grenoble, but coming across different regions of the world. Thank you very much. Today, I will be speaking on the issue of marriage, migration, and how it is being practiced especially in Europe. So my base work is from this book that was published in 2011. But in fact, this was mainly the work in Pakistan. So I'm working on this issue ranging back 2005 till now. So mainly my focus was in Pakistan, but I thought how it is going in the diaspora communities especially in Europe. So maybe you can have a look of this book meanwhile. Well, before I start, I must declare that some of the photos provided by my colleagues and some of images I draw from the ChatGPT. So just to confirm that all the ethical things are followed properly. Well, this is the overview of my presentation, starting with the issue, and then, of course, the research questions and approaches, going through some of the fieldwork experiences. I just came 4 or 5 days before from the field, although these are the premature, but these are some of the impressions that I will be sharing with you. Between obligations and autonomy, I will give some of the reflections, how things are there in the field. For example, a mother pauses before answering, and a son avoids eye contact. And WhatsApp messages remains unread, and also marriage is decided in silence. But before going this one, I want to just give a background, some of the things. How the marriages are practiced in South Asia. So it's a kind of a different framework that what we have in Europe, and how those migrants coming here and they are going to practice their marriage systems. Just is a kind of a connection back home to their native societies, or they are connected with the host societies. For example, obligations are very important in the South Asian perspective. Trust on family for all affairs. So it is generally the family is state within a state. Sometimes it's more powerful as compared to the state in South Asian societies because there is no social security system and everything is coming from the family. So family is regulating the behavior of the individuals. And compare here in Europe, where the social security system is very strong that cater all the needs of the people. Respect of elders is very important in South Asian context. Also family care and family reciprocity is very important. And marriage is essential. No relationship in ideal terms without marriage. So, but it does not mean that there are no relationships. I mean, things are changing, but this is the what we call the, rules of the business. So then early marriages. For example, in Hinduism, the marriages started very early, also in Islamic cultures, and also the other local religions. So the marriage is top priority, and I will give some of the reflection in coming slides. Marriage market is always viewed as adequate. What is important, not by the actors themselves, but their families and also the community. So it's just, much more collective in the South Asian context rather than the individual matter. And how these things are practiced in South Asian context, especially UK, for example, has multiculturalism, and France, we know there's the secularism. Laicity, sorry, my pronunciation is very bad. And I hope you got some of the reflections of the culture where we might have some benchmark how things are here and how things were there in their native societies. So research question is, how are marriages decision negotiated in UK, France, among South Asian diaspora? And more important, actors and family expectation, governance structure, and personal desires. So we will be discussing these 2-3 things. I have adopted 2 approaches. One is emotional ethnography, and the second is digital ethnography. Emotional ethnography starts with the emotions, love, fear, guilt, and shame, and many more, attachment, detachment, and things like that. Ethnography is based on 3 major approaches. Circulation of emotions by Sarah Ahmed. She worked on the culture and power, especially among the South Asian diasporas. And second is emotional labor by Hochschild. She also worked on some part of the diasporas, but generally her work is quite a different, but mainly the approach is coming this one. Emotion embedded in habitus. Pierre Bourdieu, we are much more familiar, I guess everyone is familiar, especially Pierre Bourdieu approach. And emotions act as a gravitational force. So we will be discussing within this lens. And digital ethnography is social practice, meanings, identities, and relationship as they are produced, performed through digital platforms. So digital life is reshaping our social cultural meaning, and it's as we are familiar, especially the young generations, and even we cannot avoid to be on the social media and how it is producing the culture and social meanings. And especially matrimonial apps, websites that are being practiced. I will be discussing how it is in the feed in coming slides. And social media, Facebook pages, Instagram, WhatsApp groups, and also TikTok, etc. But TikTok and Snapchats are 2 different platforms, a bit differently being used among South Asian diasporas. Digital ethnography toolkit that I consider are participant observation online, screen-based interviews, also chat and interaction analysis, text, for example, emojis, timing, and also digital trace mapping, who communicates with whom, and also platform ethnography, for example, studying specific app and its ecosystem. We know in the field nothing is always easy, but just I will highlight that I interviewed, initially it was in my mind to interview just 2 generations, but when I went to the field, I realized there is also the 3rd generation, especially in UK. For example, Pakistani came there, especially in 1960s, and it's almost over 55 years, and things change rapidly. Literature suggests something, but there was no consideration about the third generation. So I consider it into three layers of generation. First generation was 50 years plus. The second generation was in between 18 to 35, and the third generation 18 years plus. So these were the three generations, and they were the both parents if possible, or single parent, or the both spouses wherever it was possible, or maybe spouses plus their parents. Luckily I found 1-2 case studies like this one. Also community leaders, imams, and the people who gives care, or who settle the conflicts among the family. So I studied this one. Of course, the limitation times and so on. So we all know. Social setting, I interviews people in natural setting as much as possible. For example, in their homes, sitting in the living rooms or balcony or some of the coffee shops and so on. Also came across a number of emotions, and sometimes it was difficult also when the people were, the interview partners were talking and became emotional. And I can share experience when you will ask the questions. Also digital negotiations on WhatsApp platforms and so on. So here is the one of the story that I came across, and this could be a benchmark of this study. In South Asia, for example, a man told me, and I rephrased it, by the way, this conversation. In South Asia, when a child is born, particularly a boy, he is often socialized to pursue education, earn an income, support his family, build or buy a house, a home, and marry. So this is the whole life cycle. Often within the extended relatives, the kinship, the cousins or the relatives. And in Hinduism, there is no cousin, so they have different caste system, for example, coming in, for example, a similar caste, religion, race, or clan. So this is the one of the framework. In contrast, girls are typically expected to receive an education while also being socialized into household responsibilities, caring for parents, and preparing for marriage. So the ultimate reality in both cases is marriage. However, this social expectations and support system operates differently, and families often rely more on broader societal structure. So you can visualize how things are back practically in the native culture. Obligation and autonomy is very clear. It is not just a marriage. It is obligation, love, care, and belonging in any way. Social ties across generations and border till second generations are always seen the source of mutual respect, care, obligation, responsibility, and as well as a kind of a welfare system within the family. However, it does not mean the things are very static. There is emerging realities of social life as well as governance structure, especially among the third generation. So here is a fieldwork scene in UK. For example, one of my respondents, second generation female, said, "I can say no, but not directly." And there was a long silence. So I can say no, but not directly. Indirectly, I have to communicate. I'm not happy, I don't like it, and this is something different. And similarly, another person said, negotiations happen slowly. So it's not just to order and obey. This is something just convincing the second generation. So this was the response from the first generation male. He said negotiations happen slowly. So they negotiate with the children. And family remains present in decision, second generation. So they say, we have some obligations. So in one way or the other, the family is always there. But it does not mean things are static. A third generation male said, don't care family anymore. Well, this was the South Asian business, not mine. So, I mean, we may interpret the local structural conditions, the legal frameworks, the welfare system, the social security system, and less dependency on the family, where these young peoples alter their behavior. And another boy said, I'm British, and marriage isn't something I identify with. So he's fed up from the marriage. And another respondent said, she was a female, I only visit my parents' homeland when I travel with them. So she said, just I travel with them and see how the things are there, but I have nothing to do with them, with their native society, with their elders, with their relatives back in the South Asian society. And one of the first generation female told me the story of her child, and she said, our son's decision to marry a Scottish woman was the right one. And she said, I was happy about it. However, her husband initially opposed, but now all of us are happy. So she told me how this journey went out and where they negotiated and how it was. But they were unable to influence the boy's will. So this was the UK's experience, or some of the impression of the fieldwork. Now I'll tell you about the France. One of the female told me, I'm French and spouse is mine choice, so directly. No family. This is my choice. I will marry with my own will. And a boy told me, when I'm living in France, I follow the French rules. Again, a male. By the way, he was brother of that woman. So I was able to interview both of them and also one of the parents. Another important second generation male story was a bit tragic too, and also kind of different and significant, connecting all the South Asian diaspora into a different web of relationship. For example, he told me a story. My father is Pakistani, of course Muslim, and my mother is South Indian. She was originally Christian and later converted to Hinduism after her second marriage to a Hindu. So first marriage was with the Pakistani Muslim and second was with the Hindu, and she converted. And he has two sisters too. One of my sister does not follow any religion. The other is Christian and I am Muslim. I am married to Pakistani girl. And by the way, his father was not religious at all in his life, but now he is very sick. Maybe I will be able to interview on phone because he said his one of leg was cut because of the sugar or something like that, unfortunately. And now he is very practicing Muslim. So this is something very important, that here how the South Asian cultures are, or the mixed marriages are going there in terms of race, religion, and in terms of language and social relationships. Another respondent told me, second generation female, although my father boycotted my wedding due to the disagreements, my grandparents stood by and supported my decision. So this was a very unique. Generally, grandparents seems to be more conservative, but this was quite different. And they told me the background. For example, this girl's mother died quite early, and she was living much more with their grandparents rather than the father. So father got married, and the children went to the grandparents' home. And that's why they were very connected as compared to father. So father has a different political activism and so and connected to the South Asian community. And he wanted that his daughter must marry within the South Asian, but she deviated and she married to someone else. Another first generation male told me, we don't talk about openly, just we negotiate silently. And another first generation female told, decisions are concealed. And another respondent of second generation male told me, state and family both present. So it does not mean only family. For this male, the state is also present. So if we analyze the emotional landscape, it is much more about obligation. For example, care of parents. Also, care accepting family proposal. Resistance somewhere came as well. And this is sometimes refusing, sometimes it's a delaying tactic, just to delay the marriage. Widowhood. Also guilt. It's very important coming through the family tradition. Refusing same culture marriage. And sometimes shame, not obeying the parents. So this is the sum of the emotional landscape that can be seen. So where is the digital mediation? It is rishta through relatives. Rishta means the marriage proposal. Generally, traditionally, it was coming among the first generation. The marriage proposal will come through relatives. And among the second generation, it is friends and workspace. And among the third generation, it's something different. Generally, when the marriage proposal comes, the family sees the WhatsApp profile sharing photos and phone calls, generally first and second generation. So they try that the both couples see each other, they negotiate, they consult each other, they see if they are compatible with one another, or other way around. For example, sometimes people interact together and then they communicate to their families and ask that I'm interested there, and then the parents start negotiations. So this could be in either way. And this is generally, I was assuming that this might have been different matrimonial sites, but the WhatsApp was the dominant among the South Asians. And people use matrimonial apps, but this is just for dating and has very less trust on it. People repeatedly. I just come across one person and he said, I got through a spouse through a matrimonial app, but it was very bad experience because she was, the male told that her wife was engaged someone else too, so breaching the trust. And so this was my initial assumption was that these websites are very important, but when I went to the field, this was a different. And among the third generation, common friends and of course school, university education was very important. And how is the UK lived experience? Are we on time? Okay. Family involvement persists among second generation, but no control with the third generation. Choice expands but remains relational. And negotiation autonomy among second generation. So we already discussed some parts of it. Increasing partnership rather than the marriage among the third generation. This is the clear social change. Long ties with native society, losing ties with notice in terms of third generation. And reductions, you are reducing, you are restructuring traditional kinship network. So this is how I perceived in the field. So how is it in France? In France, French identity is important. When I asked who are you, they instantly said I am French. Concealed negotiations are common in French culture. I mean, not French culture, among South Asian French culture. Institutional pressure exists. Fear of visibility also exists. Autonomy is expressed and demonstrated in among South Asian migrant, the diaspora here in France. Community engagement was very visible. So South Asian community interact frequently with each other, and they have very much literary circles. That is even less common in Pakistan, but it is very common here in France. Also a new thing for me. Small but vibrant community in France. For example, here are around 130,000 people overall in France, which I came through the statistics to somewhere, because some people say we are only French, some reported that we are South Asian background and so and so. And how are the differences among South Asian diaspora? For example, what is the UK situation? In UK, there is a huge community of South Asian diaspora, maybe 5 to 6 million, but limited education, the tertiary education or the higher education, doing manual jobs, taxi drivers, delivery services, and few people in professional jobs and businesses too. So they are there, but as compared to the volume, they are maybe different. No Urdu, Hindi, Bengali, Punjabi are South Asian languages, or very limited, especially among third generation, they don't speak or even understand. How is French situation or the France situation? It is a kind of a relational generations, getting university education, also doing businesses. For example, many of them are working in the construction, food, mobile, etc., and professional jobs in the government, and also politically active. Speak French or English, learning very limited Urdu, Punjabi, Hindi, or the South Asian languages, less interest in South Asian culture, so almost losing ties. What are the emotional differences? UK negotiations, and in France, concealment. So I notice it very much. In UK, there is a visible obligation because the diaspora is quite large. And in France, hidden pressures of the family or the state or the governance structure. How is the emerging transformation? For example, I quoted one of the case study of inter-race, inter-ethnic, interfaith marriages. So this is increasing. Also weakening kinship control or restructuring the kinship control. strong individual aspirations as compared to the original, the previous, their native culture. Also, delay marriage, widowhood is increasing because some people, as I mentioned earlier, that early marriages were common, and it does not mean, I was also astonished. In UK, there is a city, I forget the name, there you can, an individual can register even after 16 years of age. So it was really surprising for me because in Pakistan it was initially 14 years of marriage, then converted into 16. Now there is ongoing legislation 18 years, and also in the across different South Asian societies this is the somewhat like similar debate. But in UK I came this very strange thing to. What do these impression indicates? Marriage is not just a structure. It is an emotional process. Also, it is negotiated in a cross-cultural context, governance, structure among South Asian diasporas. Now I will try to explain from how this data may be corresponding to the, but I'm in the initial phases, maybe I came later with a different conclusion when I will go through all the data. So what happens among the South Asian diasporas? Decisions are not individual, especially among first and second generation. Authority is not singular. Also, control is not visible. And what are the sources of decision making? Who governs marriage decisions? In fact, it is the family, individual, state, also digital platforms. But most important, these decisions are not made in one place. So where are they negotiated or made decisions? Authority is distributed among actors. Decisions are shaped collectively, and also emotions regulate the choices. And most importantly, digital media is extending the control. So digital media is visible in one way or the other way around. So if I make a comparison more clearly, decision style is negotiated in UK, but it is concealed in France. Family is visible in UK, family is silent in France. State in UK is in the background, but it does not mean absent, and it is active in France. Emotions managed in UK, but may be suppressed in France. Emotional governance of network kinship is, the emerging theme in my field work so far, I understood. This is the marriage is not privately decided. It is governed through networks, and the emotion is the key regulatory force. So it's, not only emotions, but also the governance and kinship network, so play together. So in this study, reaffirming marriage as the governed, not chosen. So still it is the governing in one way or the other. And introducing emotional governance of kinship. So this is the kind of a new contribution, showing how migration reorganizes authority. And coming to the conclusion, sorry if I'm too long, marriage is no longer decided in one place, rather it is different actors and legal framework that decides. It is negotiated across family, state, and screens, so most importantly, screens, and governed through rules, emotion, silence, and obligation. And I thank you very much for listening to this. Thank you.